Okay, so hi folks, this is Kenny Galloway here from Sales Haven. I've got James Bogue, Director of Web CRM, joining me. So what we're doing today is we're kind of tapping into James' knowledge to try and understand in a little bit more detail his views and thoughts on sales. James himself, James himself has been in sales for upwards of about 30 years, maybe. Would that be right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Say that quite a long, 30 years. Yeah.
Yeah, so quite an experienced sales guy. Knows the stuff, knows where the pitfalls are in sales. So basically, James's business, Web CRM, is built on sales. Without a CRM system, I know myself, I've used a lot of CRM systems over my time, and I've only been in sales 10 years. You know, I've used pretty much all of them that are out there. So I know that CRM is a huge part of what I do as a salesperson. I started off doing Excel. I started off writing down on paper, and then the whole sort of sales automation came in. So I've used, Salesforce. Not really fond of it. Too clunky, too many things, too much back end stuff. I've used Soho. I've looked at HubSpot, and then obviously I've looked at Web CRM. And it's quite a good system. I've seen the tutorials. I did a bit of research into it, so it's quite a good system. So James, if you just want to tell us a little bit more about Web CRM, and how that sort of developed and what kind of customers you're looking after, and just a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, as Kenny says, there's a lot of CRM systems out there that they've proliferated over the last number of years. Where Web CRM fits in is the small, medium-sized business who are looking to either replace an existing CRM they got years ago, or that are still using spreadsheets and Outlook to manage their customer interactions. Web CRM is a really flexible tool that you can develop alongside your business, so that it allows you to get it in quickly. We can get Web CRM working in most companies within literally a few days or a week, and then you can develop it. And the whole purpose is that your information about your customers and your prospects becomes organized, and then you can then start using that information to make better interactions with your customers and prospects. You know more what's going on with them. You remember the last conversations. You know when you should be ringing them back. It's a tool for salespeople to be more professional, be more informed, and more accurate. And that discipline and getting that thing right is a really important part of sales.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. And like I said, not having access to a CRM system in my early days was quite difficult. And like I said, I deal with a lot of people here, and I speak to a lot of people that are sole traders or single business owners, or maybe have 1 to 5 people working for them. And the question does come up a lot of the time, which CRM system should I look at? So I would suggest, look at them all, but certainly look at Web CRM. I've had a look at the system myself, and from a personal perspective, I think it is quite good. So definitely do. If you need to have a chat with James, I'll put all James' details in below, and you can have a chat with him after. So James, just to sort of touch on your sales experience, you've been in sales for quite a long time. You've probably seen the Wolf of Wall Street type of style of selling. You've probably been exposed to that. You've probably been exposed to the early 90s way of selling, and then we have sales today, which is what is your problem, what is your pain, how can I help you? Has that always been the case? Can you talk me through sales, how it was compared to now?
Crikey. I've been privileged to work with some of the best, and I've also, to be fair, experienced some of the worst. Sales in its own nature, that proper sales hasn't changed. In my mind, the best salespeople always come from the point of view is, how can I help this customer? How can I even help them when they don't actually even know they need some help? And they're the really best ones I've ever met, who've managed to understand a customer's business, understand actually how they really can help them, whether the customer realizes it or not, and genuinely mean it, and then communicate that in the right way, because with different people you have to communicate in different ways. to get the message across. Hey, you really need to be doing this, and if you do this, this will make really big changes to how you're working or what you're doing. And in my mind, when I look at the best ones, that's what the best ones were doing years ago, and that's what the best ones are doing now. You often hear the expression in sales, "Oh, we could sell ice, or is it snow to an Eskimo?" Well, if that person wants snow and needs snow, then fine. But selling something that somebody doesn't actually need, in my mind, is not what sales is about. It's actually persuading people to buy with integrity. That's really important. Integrity meaning it's got to deliver something that's going to benefit that client, and that's really important. And that's how I base my sales on. And I know some really good salespeople, and they work the same way.
Yeah. So that would be the right way to sell, in my opinion. Sales, I have been there. I have been a snake oil salesman myself. When I first started in sales, I worked in call centers. Yeah, and that term is still banded about, in the present day. And, I was like that. When I first started selling, I would have told you anything and everything to get the sale in. And then I moved away from the call center environment to the professional business.
Is that how you got me on this call then?
No, I know, you tell me. But whenever I started, that's how it was. I was in the call center environment, and I was pressurized, and I thought that I could do anything and everything to get the sale in. Moved into the professional world. I started working in the B2B with high clientele, and I quickly got shut down. And burnt, and a reputation that fortunately I was still in my early days, so I wasn't quite well known, but in that time I learned that if I didn't change my ways, nobody would do business with me. So that's, you've explained the right way to do business, and it's with honesty, it's with integrity, it's to find the problems that people have and to help them solve them and find the solution. So I agree with you 110%. So anybody listening, do take that on board, because it's vital. In terms of, what you do.
But if I may say,
yeah,
that's something you've got to work on. You've actually got to build trust and a relationship with a client to do that. Now, it does depend what you're selling. If you're selling very low value, you've got a limited time to do that. But then again, the decision-making bar isn't that high. When you're saying higher value products and services, then you've got to work very hard to build trust and build a relationship. And that is vitally important. And the other thing to mention, when you asked me about what's changed, of course, the other thing that's changed is people can do a lot more research now than they could 20, 30 years ago because of the internet. So, people are a bit more genned up now. Now, they may be incorrectly genned up, but they are more genned up before they actually speak to you.
Okay. And how do you think that impacts the sale? How do you think that impacts a salesperson when they're trying to sell?
Well, I think a lot of the time you find people may have got information which isn't quite right, and they're basing their approach to you based on information that may not be right, but may also be right. They may be very clear. My mind is always strip it back to basics. I get asked all the time, how does your product compare to another product? And genuinely, I can't answer that. And the reason I can't answer that is that what is it you need to do with a CRM to help your business? And if I don't understand that, then I can't tell you how my product's going to help you. Yeah. It may be I can't help you at all, or it may be we're a perfect fit, or it may be the product's actually a lot better at doing that particular part of your business than mine. So I can't answer that sort of question directly up front. I do get asked a lot more now than I used to, but you have to strip it back to the basics.
Yeah, I agree. I've read a lot of different sales books over the years. Yeah, and a lot of them have been, very intense, and it broke me down for about 2 weeks, and I didn't know what to do after. Where a lot of them have been the ones that do work are the ones that are very simple and show you what to do and how to go back to basics. And it's like you say, like you touched on earlier on, sales hasn't changed. It's just become a little bit more modernized. So people are selling the same way, but doing it in a different pattern, I find. In terms of that there, how sales has changed, technology. So technology is a wonderful thing. And you touched on it, it's a tool.
Sometimes.
Yeah, at times, social media, I have a bit of a bugbear with social media. It's the biggest productivity killer on the planet if you don't use it right. There's a right way and a wrong way, but again, it's a tool. So there's a right way and the wrong way to use these tools. How do you find that technology has changed sales? We've got CRM, we've got the internet, we've got apps, we've got mobile devices. How do you feel this has changed the sales landscape?
Well, I think people, salespeople, we've talked about customers having more information before they talk to you. Equally, the salespeople have at their fingertips or at their disposal more information about the customer than they ever have before. Every customer has got a website. Most people have got a LinkedIn profile. You can find a lot more information about people you're talking to. And if you don't actually, depends on the value of the sale, of course. Yeah. But if any salesperson worth their salt, they can find out quite a lot about an organization and an individual before they actually speak to them. Mm-hmm. And how many actually do that? I'm guilty of it sometimes when I'm in a rush, I didn't find out, but it doesn't give you a lot of information. That company may have announced a new product, or they brought a new sales director on, or, also, and you can probably find that out quite easily within a few minutes. And that information, plus if it's a customer, you've probably got ongoing conversations going on with them. You've got to be able to utilize that. So the technology has changed the landscape for salespeople in terms of it gives them more information, but you've got to be disciplined enough and to use it and use it in the proper way. Now that improper way can be a bit hit and miss with all of us, because sometimes one way is the right way for one client and it's the wrong way for another. But that's the nature of sales, isn't it? But certainly, if you're informed, it informs you how you potentially can help that client in ways that they either want to or they don't actually appreciate yet.
Yeah, and again, you touched on something very important there about, the research. So, what do you do before you actually make contact with the customer is important.
What I should do and what I do too. It's just a matter of, if we get a new client on, if we get a new inquiry off our website or through social media, it doesn't take a long to look at the company's website and find out, have they got more than one office? Where are they based? The individual, where they worked before, maybe. And the part of that is you get a bit more information so you can ask the right questions, then to develop a relationship. I see you're from Belfast. I was over there last week, or I used to run a business in Belfast, or whatever the context. It allows you to build relations, not in a phony way, but genuinely by asking questions and talking and talking. People appreciate that, in my opinion, and my experience.
Yeah, it's allowing that opportunity to build a relationship. I completely agree. I don't know about you, James, but I get quite a lot of cold calls on a regular basis, and I used to ignore them. And if I'm busy or I'm doing something, I will ignore them. But if I have a little bit of time, I do take the time to to sort of listen to what they have to say. And I've started writing down. So I've started actually writing down what they're saying and how they're approaching their calls.
Yeah.
What I have found, and it's unbelievable. So I recorded last week. I recorded 10 calls. These 10 calls, not one person asked for the right person, and not one person got the right phone number for the right company. They were phoning the wrong company. So one of two things was happening here. Number one, they didn't do their research and find out who they needed to be speaking to. Or number two, the company has purchased data without cleansing the data and put it into a dialer system. And these guys are working in the call center unproductively, trying to find this person that doesn't exist. So, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, there's 2 points there. One, data. The cleanliness of your data. At the end of the day, the question we all are, do we clean our bathroom? Do we clean our kitchen? You know, and most of us do, apart from when the wife's away, and perhaps we don't do it so much.
Yeah.
But we do it, and you know, because why? Because things get cluttered and you can't find things and difficult. Well, people have got data, and they've had some of this data for years. And I will tell you a stat here: is 25% of your data each year will go out of date, which means in about 3 years, most of your data is out of date one way or another. Whereas companies have moved address, they've gone bust, people have moved, la di da da, all different things. So yeah, you're absolutely right about the data cleansing. That's a really big important point when you're using data to do outbound type activities. Having clean data is not priceless, but it's, you know, it really is good for productivity and things. The second thing is, you talked about research. I had a company phone me up the other day, and they were actually trying to sell me social media services, how I could actually use LinkedIn. And I listened, and he said, "And have you got a LinkedIn account?"
Right.
Well, yeah. And he says, "Oh," and I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Oh, and how many followers have you got? I mean, have you got more than 500? Well, I said, "If you looked, I've got nearly 5,000. Oh, and have you not looked at my profile then?" And he went, "Oh, no." And this is a company trying to sell me a social media. I mean, come on, guys, be professional.
Yeah. Completely agree. You know, the best way that you can hold integrity for your own business is do the research. You know, take the
Be
time.
professional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Just
completely
be
take the time. You know, it's a little bit time consuming, and you know, I could spend the whole day, 2 days, writing in a prospect list, putting that into a format, getting that onto the CRM system, and you know, but I know what that customer likes to eat. I know the favorite hobbies. I know how many people are in that business. I know everything, and that's because it's important for me and it's important for the customer to know that I've took the time to find the information about that person.
Yeah, no, I mean, it depends what you're selling. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're selling energy contracts, you know,
Yeah.
and you're phoning up at a fish and chip shop, yeah, then you know they use a lot of energy, because they use a lot of energy every evening or every lunchtime cooking fishes and chips and whatever else you can fry, you know. So there is information there. I mean, it's basic information. It's there. You don't need to do a huge amount of research for it. But when you're into sort of higher level sales, yeah, you've got to do some research. I mean, it doesn't mean if you go in cold that you can't be successful, but I think it increases the chances of success, or indeed increases the speed of developing a relationship if you have done some research.
Yeah, no, completely agree. I have experienced it on a regular basis. Like I say, if I go back to when I first started in sales, you know, research was non-existent when I first started in sales. So young, so naive, and we'd have just jumped in head first. Boom, phone, doors, whatever, closed in my face every time. As you develop your experience, and this is, you know, going out to the people who will be listening to this, you know, maybe you've just started your journey, maybe you've just started your business journey and you've got your own business, maybe you've just started getting into sales, whatever it may be, you know, it doesn't matter what company you're working for, take the time and research your own clients, research the people you want to target. It's vital, you know.
But also when you're talking to clients or prospects, they're always, if you're approaching it correct, they're always giving you valuable information, always. And that's vital that you utilize that information for the next call. You know, and it could be very personal in terms of, unfortunately, I can't spend any time talking to you in a minute, and my dog's going to the vet and I've got it there. So the next time you speak to that client, when you call back, what's the first thing you should be asking them? How's your dog? How's it going? Whatever. I mean, obviously it's a slightly silly example, but although it has happened, you know, or if you're talking to a client and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, my contract doesn't finish until the 1st of February 2019. So I'm not," well, fine. I've now got a date when their contract or whatever they're buying, currently buying, renews. So I ought to be kind of scheduling a call to phone them mid-December, shouldn't I, really?
Yeah, completely. And that's the way to do these things. I mean, in terms, we've talked about prospecting and, you know, this is all new business development. What about existing customer bases? When you're trying to develop business from existing customers, because a lot of people out there will have repeat customers and rely on referrals or will rely on word of mouth. But managing your existing clientele, how do we do that? What's the best way to do this?
Well, the big question is, do people do it? My experience is that the switched on companies do. Again, it can depend on what you're supplying to the customer, because it could be there's an ongoing dialogue because of what you've sold them. But too many companies, they do a sale, and certainly the salesperson, and then sort of the customer drifts off the radar. And I call it forgotten customers. We get a customer and then they buy something off us and then we forget them. Well, my God, that's stupid. It really is so stupid. I went to a company a few months ago, and he was talking that he needed new customers. He needed lots more prospects and new customers. And I said to him, "And how long have you been in business?" I did know the answer to this one before you say, but I wanted to see what he said. He said, "We've been in business for 5 years." And I said, "So how many companies have you actually got on your accounting system then?" He said, "I don't know, let me have a look." And he had a look and he said, "I've got 1,024 customers on my accounting system. So when we started business 5 years ago, we've invoiced and done business with 1,024. I said, "Oh, that's amazing." Just as a gut feel, how many do you think you're doing business with now? He looked, he thought, about 200. Now, as we said before, a lot of some of those companies would have gone out of business, changed like that, but are still quite a low percentage. And we ought to have strategies in place to make sure, as salespeople, why are we not phoning the customer up a month after we sold them, or a week, saying, "How are you getting on? All right?" Because only positive things can come out of these calls. If they're not happy, you find out early. Yeah. If they are happy, you can perhaps encourage them to give you a referral. Later on, perhaps there's other things you can sell them that you weren't able to sell them to start with. Now they've built the trust with your company, you can sell them something else. So you need to have a strategy in place, and it doesn't have to be complicated. It's just about being organized. And the problem is with a lot of sales teams is they're so focused on new business that the customers get forgotten. Now, in some companies, they're big enough, they've got their own customer service, but still, how every one of you out there, can you put your hand on your heart and think, we made a sale 2 months ago or a month ago. Have we actually contacted that customer? I bet all of you are going to say, "Yeah, I'm a bit overdue doing that. I've been chasing that new prospect." Okay.
Yeah, no, completely agree with you. And I think most, if you're probably a single business owner or you're probably a salesperson listening to this, and most of the time the excuse is, "I'm too busy. I'm too busy to do this." You're too busy doing what? What are you busy doing? Like you say, are you busy chasing that new prospect? Are you busy managing this project? Are you busy enough to take an hour out of your time, 1 hour out of your day, to make a load of phone calls, see how your customers are doing, and to see if there's more business? So it's not difficult, And again, it maybe comes down to a little bit of time management as well. Sales is a big part of business, and time management is a big part of sales. If you don't have your ducks in a row when you're doing sales, it becomes very difficult.
Yeah, well, the inverse is also true as well. There is a balance here, because then if you're not careful, your customer service isn't sorted out properly and you're not looking after customers, and your salespeople end up doing it, then they end up servicing customers and doing account management rather than getting new sales. So there's a definite balance you have to get right, and that's not easy. Segregating the processes. What I mean by that, is having different people dealing with customer service to the salespeople, but sometimes you aren't able to do that. So it's about helping the salespeople balance and allocate their time correctly.
Yeah. So in terms of you touched on customer service as well. Myself and yourself are probably big advocates for customer service. I love to make sure my customers are happy, and if they're not happy, I want to understand why, and then I want to use that why to make the business better. So for yourself, customer service, how does it fit into sales? And in my eyes, there's sales, customer service, and marketing. So there's 3 spokes to sales, and a salesperson has to be kind of a blended agent of all of them these days. How do you see it fitting in, James?
That's quite a good question, actually. I think Yeah, it's interesting. I'm to think about how to answer that one.
Yeah.
I think the problem a lot of salespeople have is they don't have necessarily all the information in front of them, so that when they phone up a client, they are able to make a judgment. Is this, if it's an existing customer, is it a sales call? Is it a customer service call, or is it marketing, if you like? And what I'm trying to say in a roundabout long way, as I think through the answer in my head, is that yeah, you may have an account plan to phone up a customer every 3 months, and you get to that 3 months to phone that client up, but you really need to know what's been going on with that client if you're not dealing with the day to day. So you need to make that judgment. Am I phoning up a client that's actually had a bad experience with us over the last few weeks, and I need to approach the call this way? Or we've not talked to them at all and nobody's talked to them, so I'm going in a little bit colder than I would do normally? Or is it, wow, they're really happy, and I've actually, because of the research I've done, I actually know that customer has bought a new division or a new office, or they've opened a new office in London or what have you, and there's an opportunity with there, and I need to get on the phone to get to kind of make good on that opportunity. So I think it's about making, you say ducks in a row. I think it's about, again, it comes back to when I phone that client, why am I phoning that client? And you need to be really clear. Like, phoning that client, say hello. Well, that's great. I'm sure everyone wants to say hello. You need to know, what is the reception you'd like to get, and pre-handle things. Yeah. Whether that be an opportunity or whether that be a negative situation. But we all know negatives can be turned into positives. If you've gone, I'm sorry to hear, if you phone a client's had a problem, I've looked on my system, I'm seeing you've had a problem, I've kept informed, I'm now phoning you up, I know we're sorted out, I'm sorry I've had this, are you happy what I've done, can I help anymore? It's about building a relationship, isn't it? So I don't know if I answered your question quite right or not.
I mean, a salesperson and anybody who is selling, whether you're a business owner or a salesperson, you actively have to have that empathy, I think. So the empathy to understand your customer's problems and understand the relationship that customers had with your business. So if you can understand and keep that empathy at all times whilst you're selling. So yes, I understand you had this problem. I hope we fix the problem for you. Is there anything else we can do for you? Is there anything that we could do to improve our business? Something along those lines. That's good customer service. That is how you improve service.
And I think people appreciate honesty as well. Look, it looks as though this didn't go quite right, and I know what I sold you, because at the end of the day, you as a salesperson sold something. If you sold something and it's gone brilliantly, that's one thing. If you sold something and there's been a few glitches, then you have a responsibility in that, because you're the one that brought the business, to them. You're the one that introduced and set up that relationship. So the salesperson in most companies should have and does have that sort of responsibility to, hang on a minute, something I've sold hasn't gone quite as planned. Let's make sure we smooth this over and make sure it's sorted and everyone's happy. And again, that comes back to the integrity piece, doesn't it?
It does, 100%. And there's the analogy that you can be like a swan on top and you can be very, very graceful, but below you're going like the clappers.
I've never been described as a swan, Kenny.
But 9 times out of 10, when you look at a salesperson, they are very calm and collected. But I can guarantee you, and speaking from personal experience, below the surface, they are doing everything they can to make the product and make the service work for you. And if it hasn't went to plan, they're doing everything they can to make it better. And if they're not, then they're failing themselves and they're failing the customer a little bit. So always keep that in mind. We've touched on quite a few different things, but what I want to touch on is some of the things that salespeople don't do well. So are there any particular things that salespeople do that you don't agree with, or that you think they shouldn't be doing?
Well, one of my biggest bugbears is how a lot of people follow up prospects.
Okay.
I phoned you, Kenny, and I've talked to you about CRM, and you've told me a bit about what you want, and I've taken that on, and we've had a few conversations, and we're getting to the point where maybe you want to take a decision, or maybe I think you should be wanting to take a decision, and I'm phoning you, and virtually the first thing I say after hello and how are you is, so have you got that CRM order signed for me yet? and you say, oh, I haven't had time to do it. And the next time I phone you, I do exactly the same thing. There's a right way to follow up a prospect, and there's a wrong way. Badgering prospects is definitely one of the wrong ways. You know, sometimes just phoning up a prospect and talking about something completely different. Keep your eye. You know what business they're in. You may be able to help them in another way that builds the relationship. You know, oh, by the way, you know, I know your company does, I don't know, paper products. And by the way, I know there's a new office just open down the road, and I know they're probably in the market for that. It may be worth a call. Yeah. Follow up in a different way. Change it. Be creative. Don't, you know, have you given me, you know, are you going to give me the order yet? Are you going to give me the order yet? Yeah, okay. And some customers, you know, you have, I mean, that's coming to sale technique of getting them to take the decision. But equally, you know, we've all had it. We're phoning people up. Don't badger them. Yeah. Don't do it that way. Do it in a more professional, researched, thoughtful way. And then you're more likely to get a result. And then they'll stop taking your calls if you're badgering. And then, oh, no, they've disappeared. You know, the invisible prospect. Yeah. And I think a lot of salespeople get that wrong. And I think good salespeople are good at positioning the client so they want to take a decision, and that's one thing. But secondly, if they're not quite taking a decision, you've just got to be a little bit more patient and think creatively out of the box. How can I have a conversation with this guy, this person, without, you know, being ever so obvious that I'm looking for a sale? You know, how can I help them in another way? Just think out the box.
Yeah, so I completely agree with you. And I have a little thing, it's called VAS, VAS. Okay, so VAS, value added selling. So it's just something that I've done for quite a long time. I've just decided to put some letters to it. But value added selling, I will always phone a customer up with some value. I'll never just phone them and say, have you got that sale, or have you got that order? You know, I'll give some value, and I'll say, listen, I've seen, you know, that you're at this event. And again, this goes back to prospect research. It just doesn't stop whenever you're first trying to find your customer. It's always going on. You know, so I could see an article about the CEO of a company, and I'll phone them up and I'll say, listen, I seen, you know, that we were doing a bit of business a little while ago, or, you know, I'm waiting on this order, but I'm not calling about that. I seen this article, and the article was fantastic, and I might pick up on something that I'm interested in, he's interested in, and we might have a conversation about it. So that's value added selling. I'm not trying to sell. It sounds a bit cliche. I'm not trying to sell to him, but I'm building that relationship. Okay.
Yeah, you're not just helping a client by providing your service that's helping them. You by developing a relationship, you're helping them any way you can to develop that relationship.
Yeah.
You know, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's no lack of integrity. You know, all you're trying to do is build a close enough relationship so that you can help them better. Yeah. It is as simple as that.
Yeah, completely agree. So, you know, those are the follow-ups. Is there anything else that comes to mind that you don't like about people selling or how they sell?
Oh gosh, where do you start?
Is that the main bugbear? Is it?
For me, that's the main one. But I mean, you get into sales techniques. You know, at the end of the day, salespeople who talk about features and their products all the time don't do it. Talk about the customer. Talk about what the client will get of value from buying your product and service. Focus on that. And if you can't find anything, then perhaps that product or service isn't right for them. You know, product features and products, and we've got, you know, 750 gigabytes of RAM, and it's got a hard disk that does this. Yeah, that's wonderful, and it comes in blue and pink spots. No, it's about that client. What are they going to get out of it? What's going to be their positive experience by buying your product and service, buying into you? And that's another thing is, you know, people buy people. It's often said, and salespeople always say it, people buy people, but then they don't show the people skills to actually, you know, achieve that. Yeah. Taking an interest, you know, understanding the client's position on things. There's a lot of poor salespeople out there. You know, you can actually sort quite a lot of those out by getting the basics right. You're there to help the client. Yeah. And that starts a good foundation to sort that out.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. And just going to wrap up now, James, because we're kind of going over our time. But in terms of sort of the likes of sales books and things like this here and recommendations, do you have any sales books that you would recommend to people?
Oh, crikey.
Have you read any? I'm sure you've read
There's an
some.
old one I read a long time ago. I've read some since, but Who Dares Sells is a good one
Okay.
in terms of how to see opportunities and how to, and again, the whole thing is about being bold and taking the initiative, but in a positive way. Flip It's a good book. I'm just started reading in a minute. Is how to turn negatives into positives, how to create a win-win. Oh, crackers! There's a whole pile.
Okay.
Probably in the bookshelf behind
Yeah,
me
yeah, I
somewhere.
can see the book. Well, James, listen, what I'll do, I will put your details within the post that when we're putting this up on social media. And if anybody wants to reach out to James to ask him any questions about sales, he's a fountain of knowledge. He'll be able to answer any questions, I'm sure. And if you have any queries,
Read one of my books first.
yeah, well, yeah. And if you have any queries about CRM and where it's going and how it can develop and how it can help your business, I would highly recommend having a chat with James. He's very knowledgeable. He's been in the industry for a long time. I see him as one of the thought leaders in the industry when it comes to sales and CRM. So do give him a shout if you want to ask any questions or just get to know him a little bit more. I'm sure he'll be happy to answer any questions.
Of
Cool.
course.
Cool, James. Listen, thank you very much for your time. And hopefully we'll get a chat again soon. Okay.
Hi, all our Northern Ireland people.
Brilliant, James. Listen, thank you very much.